Well, hey there, folks. I just saw Kirak in the chat. You better hurry. Don't want to get that TikTok Shives alert. I'm shocked that it's not there already. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. I just saw Simon Moody in the chat. You said, I've started picking my way through late seating. Thank you. And enjoying Steve's pain for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Well, I'm glad somebody's enjoying it. It was, I won't say it was worth watching those movies to do those podcasts, but it's almost worth it. And look, now that I've seen them, there's two good things that have come from me watching those Lord of the Rings movies. One, I never have to watch them again, and two, I can complain about them for the rest of my life. So it's a good thing. Anyway, Dana. Anyway, welcome to the show, everybody. As usual, I will be answering questions submitted ahead of time by my Patreon patrons and channel members for the first part of the show. So if you are with us in the live chat and you have see about you said the behind the scenes for the last Ensign log was disturbing. That's value for your patronage dollar right there, my friend. So if you are with us in the live chat and you have a question for me or something you want to get my attention for or whatever, and most particularly if you are planning on being generous and tossing in a super chat, which I always encourage and welcome, please, if possible, hold on to all of that until I get through the patron and member questions, and then I will happily spend the rest of the show paying full attention to the live chat, but not until I get through the patron and member questions. So having said all of that, let us turn now to the ropes, CMX says. I know what you mean. I know exactly what you're referring to. Anyway, let's go to the patron and member questions, shall we? Hey, look, there they are. First question from a patron or a member comes from the Vexed Video Gamer. So, Steve, how bad do you think the market will get before the tariffs are undone? Oh, that's perfect. Do you think there's a red line for the stock market or goods prices? So far, Nintendo has even canceled/delayed pre-orders for their newest system due to tariffs on Vietnam. They previously moved production from China to Vietnam to avoid this very thing. Do you think other Eastern tech sectors or other foreign businesses will follow suit for new products? Also, just curious, what's the price of eggs? $5 for 12 last I checked last week. Well, at my local grocery store, it is the same this week. I looked this week, and my local grocery store it was $4.99 for a dozen. So, yeah. I mean, some of the tariffs had been undone, I think, within a few hours of you posting your question on Monday. Obviously, they haven't all been undone. There's still that fucking 10% across the board tariff, but the higher quote unquote reciprocal tariffs were paused. So even those, I suppose we can't say they've been undone. They've just been delayed for 90 days. So the stock market crash will happen in 3 months as opposed to this past Monday. What is there? I mean, I think here's the thing, and here's what we have to remember with Trump. He may decide to just declare victory and move on. Like if his economic advisors are able to somehow get it through his thick skull that this is a really bad idea and that this will be a negative thing for the economy and therefore would make him look bad because he's the president, then he may decide to just say, hey, guess what? We made a bunch of deals with other countries. And that probably won't even be true, but he'll just say that. We made a whole bunch of deals with other countries and they're going to level the playing field. And they've made all these commitments to me that they're going to treat the United States better. So we don't need, hey, everybody, we don't need to do the tariffs anymore. I mean, I'm not saying that is going to happen. I'm not saying he won't completely wreck the economy for no reason, but it's possible because he doesn't care what's actually true. Like, it's possible he'll decide the best move for him, which is the only thing he cares about, will be to just declare victory and move on. And then from that point forward, he'll just brag about how he used tariffs to level the playing field and all this other stuff. But none of that will be remotely true. It'll just be the story he tells. And his supporters will uncritically accept it like they uncritically accept everything he says, which is why they are able to still be his supporters. Next question from William Tucker. We see you in videos that run around 10 to 20 minutes in your video essays. I want to know how the sausage gets made. In other words, behind the scenes, how long does it take to get those essays written, staged, recorded, and edited? It depends very much on the particular video. Obviously, the more, if it's a scripted video, the longer it is and the longer the script is, then the longer the writing will take. The writing is almost always the most time-consuming part of the process. It takes longer to write than it does to do any of the other individual stages. For a, like you say, 10, 20, 30 or longer minute video essay, the writing generally takes several days. And then, I mean, shooting takes maybe a couple of hours per video if it's a really long one, and if I'm having a really hard time saying the words that I wrote for myself to say, which has been known to happen. And then editing can take anywhere from a few hours to a couple of days, again, depending on how involved it is and how much I need to do. So it really depends. The entire process from me thinking of a video idea and starting to write it to actually having a finished video that I'm ready to upload and release, anywhere from several days to a week, sometimes maybe a little bit longer, depending on how long the writing takes. But for unscripted videos, which I'm doing much more frequently than I had been for the past several years, I'm doing a lot more unscripted videos just since the election season last year. Those turn around real quick. Like for some of those, if I just get an idea and I have a couple of sources, I have an article I want to read a quote from or a video I want to show a clip of, and then I basically know what I want to say and I can just kind of riff for a little bit. Sometimes I might write down some bullet points that I want to make sure that I get to, but those can turn around pretty quickly. If I know where I'm going and I know what I'm doing, and, you know, again, the shooting doesn't take forever because I keep getting stuck in my own head and I can't figure out what to say because I didn't script it ahead of time. I can turn one of those around pretty easily in a few hours. So it really depends. It depends on the video, but typically for scripted ones, it takes between a few days to a week. Ben Douglas, hi Steve, I have it on the authority of countless experts from Marjorie Taylor Greene to Joe Lieberman that violent video games cause violent behavior in real life. Presumably this extends to other sorts of crimes as well. I have played Minecraft for years. Because of this, I live every day in fear that I could snap Winter Soldier style and commit all manner of OSHA violations, such as working at heights without fall protection. I know you haven't played as many video games as I have, but you've played some. What non-violent crimes have the video games you've played primed you to commit? Mostly just cheating at free cell. Because you can't cheat. You know, when you play computer free cell, when I play free cell on my phone, you can't cheat. It won't let you. Unless you do like hints and stuff, but that's not quite the same. But when I play free cell with an actual deck of cards, I can do whatever the fuck I want. And sometimes I do. I don't think I've ever actually cheated at free cell. I don't think so. I would find that unfulfilling. I mean, sometimes what I do is if I deal out an entire hand of free cell and then I realize relatively early that I'm not going to be able to solve this one, if I'm really feeling frustrated, I put the cards away and I don't play anymore. If I'm feeling motivated and I really want to solve a free cell puzzle, a free cell hand, then I'll just scoop everything up and deal out another one. But it really depends on my level of commitment and patience at the time. But no, that would be the most egregious nonviolent crime I've picked up from a video game. Playing video free cell and then, thinking, if I really wanted to, when I'm playing this with real cards, I could cheat. Nobody would know, especially now that I live by myself. Nobody's even looking over my shoulder. It's only David Colby if it's from the Bay Area region of California. Otherwise, it's sparkling pedantry. Yeah. Hey, Steve, sorry about last week. I normally reconsider my whining about Strange New World questions and rewrite them, but my rewritten question, it involved giving an alpha gun, didn't arrive. Anyway, I was talking on Blue Sky about how I think Star Trek could use a Ming the Merciless style figure, local emperor of a planet who can be a personal villain for the hero ship, but has political connections with, say, the Romulans. And someone was like, what if it was Moriarty with a mobile emitter? And Steve, do we have to send Star Trek fans to the same re-education camps we have for Star Wars fans? Do they need to be beaten with rubber hoses until they realize that you can just invent new characters? Fuck, I thought it'd get past them because it's not even a new archetype. My idea was inspired by another character and it's still too new for them. I swear this fandom could only be improved by involuntary trips to the disintegration booth like it's Tuesday on Amini R7. I mean, this is one of those areas where you and I see completely eye to eye. We have certain disagreements about things, including Star Trek related things, but we are 100% on the same page here, my friend. I cannot tell you how many people, when I recently reviewed in one of my retro reviews, I reviewed the TNG episode, The Survivors with Kevin Uxbridge, who is revealed to be a godlike being at the end, who like uses his powers in a moment of grief to wipe out an entire species that sent a ship to attack his planet. And there are so many people in the comments of that who are like, oh, you think he's a Q? He should be a Q. They should have made him a Q. I think maybe if they reference him in another show, they should make it clear that he was a Q. Because I guess the Q continuum are the only godlike beings we're allowed to have in Star Trek. Since we established one, we have to just keep using it over and over and over again. Even though, until relatively recently, that's never been how Star Trek has been written. As you point out, lots of Star Trek shows in the past have made up new characters. Like, when they came up with the Klingons, they didn't just say, okay, from now on, the Klingons are the only aliens. You know what I mean? When they came up with the Romulans, okay, we've got Romulans and Klingons, so from now on, just use those if you want aliens. We're going to just keep this. We're going to do some world building. We're going to world build and only use Klingons from now on because we've established them. You know, it makes no. How many fucking kinds of beetles are there in the world? Like, you can have more than one species that's kind of similar. You know, like this idea of, well, you know, if we've already established a godlike race, it seems a shame not to just use them over and over and over again and run them into the fucking ground. Why create anything? Why create a sci-fi franchise where the premise is for the heroes to go out into unexplored space and meet new people and discover new things and have new experiences when you can just reuse the things that other writers have already made up? Like, yeah. We're on the same page. It makes absolutely no sense. It's one of the most frustrating things about Star Trek fandom and about like broad sort of sci-fi superhero fandom in general. Of everybody instead of wanting the creators to imagine new things for them to fall in love with and become interested in and see stories about, just show me the old shit. Just play the hits. Just show me the things that I've seen before. I cannot express how bored I am by that idea. I cannot express how fucking bored I am by people who say, what if he's a Q? Like, if you want fanfic, go write it. You know, if you want fanfic, go write it. Don't expect that like the people who are paid to do it should be writing your fanfic for you, unless it's Picard season 3, which was apparently the assignment. Some random geek who don't know what to do anymore. Whew. Mood. So assuming the way that the U.S. government works is that the representatives will enact laws according to the will of the people, we are assuming a lot there. Studies have shown that what gets passed in Congress has almost no input or influence from the voters at all. We've been living in an oligarchy for quite a long time. Congress won't pass a UBI or Medicare for all unless it is popular among the voters. Did we get gay marriage finally because the rich were in favor of it? But if Medicare for all and a UBI are not popular, and that is a big if, why the fuck not? I've been told when talking politics with liberals, I should meet them where they're at. Not everyone is as left as you, geek, but when I realize someone is in favor of capitalism, in my mind, that means they are in favor of my friend's suffering. I know it is not direct, but how can I converse with someone who are okay with my friend's suffering? And I'm just talking liberals here. I've given up on the fascists. Well, it depends on what the stakes of the conversation are, right? Like if you are trying to motivate someone to support something like Medicare for all or universal basic income, I mean, you kind of said it yourself. Like fascists are beyond hope, but liberals can be reasoned with. You can make a liberal, you can make a non-far leftist case, let's say, for why there should be UBI, for why there should be Medicare for all. One of the easiest ways to do that to someone who is like still, sort of super committed to capitalism is to just say, hey, in the long run, it's going to be cheaper. Like Medicare for universal health care, whether it's specifically Medicare for all or some other formulation of it, universal health care in the long run is way cheaper, like is way cheaper than the way we do it now. Now it will put less money in the pockets of the people who are getting rich off of it right now, but on the whole, it's a lot less expensive and a lot more efficient than the system we have now. So if you are a capitalist and you care about an economy where people can be successful and have money and prosper and lift themselves out of poverty through good old-fashioned American hard work, well, then you should be in favor of Medicare for all or some other form of universal health care because it's more efficient and it's more economically efficient. So that's one argument you could make. You could try to meet them on their terms and say, look, if this is how you see the world and this is what you care about, you should be just as much in favor of this as I am in favor of it for humanitarian reasons. Because not only will it be better for people's health and their livelihood and their quality of life, it'll cost less money too. So that's one way of approaching it. And why you should do it is if you think that it's possible to move people a little closer to your position. And I know you're not really an incrementalist, but if you think it's possible to move people a little closer to your position, it might be worth doing that if you are in such a position to do so. And if you think it might help to ultimately realize a goal you have. And this one is also from the always frustrated Some Random Geek. My second non-question question, only because I didn't directly mention my friends in my last question. Since my friends will have to suffer in the meantime being the rest of my generation's lifetime, it seems, my friends need money for everything each month. Joanna needs at least $1,000 each month. Phoenix needs about $500 each month. And Naz and LQ need about $1,000 each month for everything. And every month until the end of capitalism. My friends are suffering and need money because they are in poverty, and capitalism requires poverty to function. For example, under capitalism, food isn't produced to feed people, it's produced to make a profit. When it is not profitable to feed people, we let them starve. Even when our labor has conquered scarcity, capitalism must manufacture it in order to justify its existence. Similar with climate change. So long as it is profitable to trash the environment, capitalists will continue doing it. There are no good billionaires. And obviously, no question there, but I will just throw in my 2 cents with that and say I agree with that. And I'll mention this again at the end when we go through the charity links and stuff. But please, if you are able to, if you have some money to spare this month and you would like to help somebody out, please consider throwing a few bucks the way of one or more of our friends there that Geek mentions in the question. Farah Grimm, what is one thing you would change in Star Trek Voyager that you believe would drastically improve the show? I don't think there is one thing that would drastically improve the show, at least not one like specific thing. I mean, because I could always say like write the show different, but that's a little vague. As far as a specific thing that I would change, I don't think it would drastically improve the show. It would not magically turn it from a show that I find mostly mediocre to a great show. But I would have made it a rule from the time I hired the writers. Like if I were the showrunner, as soon as I had my first writer's room, one of my rules would have been no holodeck episodes, ever. Like part of the premise of the show would be they can't use the holodeck. They can't spare the power. They're on limited resources. They have a holodeck on the ship, but they never use it because they can't spare the power. And of course, in the actual show, they give themselves a little carve out and they say, well, you know, the holodeck's power systems are somehow completely different from the rest of the ship. So we might as well continue to use it, because if we didn't use it, it wouldn't save us any energy anyway, like, which is okay, whatever. No, I would have, that's, if there was one thing, and again, I don't think it would have made a huge difference, but it would have made the show a little bit truer to its premise. And I think the core sin of Voyager was that it all too rarely took its premise seriously. I think if the show had taken its premise seriously, or more seriously, it would have been a much better show. And part of that would have been no holodeck episodes ever. And yes, maybe that would have sacrificed a couple of good episodes, because Voyager does have some good holodeck episodes over the years. But I feel like that would have been a sacrifice that was worth it, to have a better show overall across those 7 years. Patrick, thank you for your answer to my last question regarding your reviews of Batman movies and DC Comics. I agree 100% that Batman Returns is the best Batman movie. The second best, in my humble opinion, was The Dark Knight with Christian Bale and Heath Ledger. My question today is on a separate topic. If Felon 47, I will not use his name in the title he did not earn, succeeds in dismantling the U.S. government and democracy, where do you see America going in the weeks, months, and years after he is gone? If things do collapse into tyranny, and after its eventual downfall, it is my hope that we will rebuild into a true democracy. No electoral college, a parliamentarian system with a prime minister, an economy based on European democratic socialism. Well, first of all, I never said Batman Returns was the best Batman movie. I said it was my favorite, and I think the best of like the Tim Burton, Joel Schumacher series, those first four starting in 89. I guess I shouldn't say first four, because there was also the 1960s one with Adam West, which is fantastic. I think either The Dark Knight or The Batman is the best Batman movie, like, of any of them. But of that series, I think Batman Returns is the best. As for your question, yeah, I mean, nothing lasts forever. Empires rise, empires fall. So even if things do collapse into just full-on fascism and tyranny, I don't think that will last forever. Hopefully it won't last for very long at all. Do I think that in the aftermath of that, we will rebuild into a European-style democratic socialist parliamentary system? Probably not. That would require us to get over our American bullshit a lot more completely than I think we're capable of, at least at this point. I mean, maybe after many, many generations, we might do that. But for now, I would think we would probably try to go back to the Constitution and sort of restore that form of government. Now, as far as like a more European style socialist economy, I actually think that is probably more likely than changing to a European style government. I don't think that's super likely either, at least in the short term, no matter how sensible it might be. We Americans have never been accused of being overly sensible, have we? But as far as like having, a parliamentary style legislature and a prime minister instead of a president, I feel like that is a lot further off, rise and fall of tyranny or not, than a more socialistic economy. Friends tell friends, nay, friends implore friends. Your essay on the necessity of free school meals and how cutting these programs should be off the table, especially since K through 12 education attendance is mandatory, is riveting, spot on. However, I digress. My question is, I have a friend who often says Democrats who vote in Florida are wasting their time and vote because Florida has an overwhelming Republican electorate. Yet they often lament how they wish sex work were legal. Yet they say they would never vote for candidates like Bernie or AOC because they are too far left. My response to them is that if you don't vote for people like these, legislation like this and other social expansions will never happen. Also, choosing not to vote is to accept passage of harmful pieces of legislation, correct? Is there a better way to articulate this point during conversation? P.S. What Senator Booker did was very important. He explained with passion and class the true mission of Democrats, which is to protect democracy. Booker in 2028? I mean, it will absolutely shock me if he does not run. I don't know if he will get the nomination, and beyond that, if he would win the election, but it would I would be absolutely shocked if he did not run in the primary, at least. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who else would be running. I don't know who else is sort of uh, on the on deck circle, so to speak. So I don't know if I don't even know if I would vote for him in a primary, because I would have to know who else he was running against. But yes, as I explained in one of my videos, I was also very impressed with his speech. So the reason you vote is not because you think your side is going to win. The reason you vote is because it's your responsibility as a citizen, because you live in a democracy, and voting is your tiny little share of the decision-making power in the country. And even if you live in a state where it is extremely unlikely that your side will win the election, you should still vote every single time in every single election. For one thing, because it's the right thing to do. Like I said, it's your duty as a citizen. But the more important reason is, if nobody who believes as you do votes, if everybody who lives in Florida, for example, who is a Democrat, decides, well, we're not going to vote because Democrats always lose elections in Florida, Democrats are never going to win any more elections in Florida. Florida was not always a deep red state. Within my lifetime, well within my lifetime, Florida has been a swing state, right? The phenomenon of Florida being reliably Republican is a relatively recent phenomenon. And if it shifted to the right, it can also shift back to the left, right? I mean, you could use the same logic to say, well, there's no need for me to vote because I live in a blue state and Democrats always win in Maryland, so I don't need to vote. If a bunch of Democrats had my same attitude, Maryland wouldn't stay a blue state for very long. You know, democracy requires participation of the citizens, and the bare minimum level of participation is voting. Like, if you're able to, you should do more than vote, but you should always at least vote, whether you think your side is going to win or not. You know, because and especially if you think your side is going to lose, well, okay, your side might lose this time, but if all the people like you decide just not to vote ever, then your side is always going to lose. So it's very important to always vote. Voter turnout in this country is a fucking joke. For us, like, if we get fucking 66% voter turnout in a presidential election, there are flags waving. Like, people are like, look, oh, voter turnout was a historic high. For like 2/3 turnout. It's pathetic. Everybody who is able to vote in this country should be voting every single time. And you should do that whether you expect that your side is going to win the election or not. Yeah, because it's just really, really important. It's just really, really important. General Contact Unit problem child. So I didn't like Adolescence for a few reasons. One, the plot isn't really that specific to incel culture or even the internet era. A teen boy asks out a girl, she rejects and bullies him, he lashes out and kills her. That story could easily be set in the 70s. The incel stuff felt tacked on to make timeless issues seem current. Two, I found it kind of gross that the girl was shown to have provoked her own murder via cyberbullying. The show claims to be about incel culture. Well, a lot of the real incel killers target girls who barely knew they existed. Here, they make Jamie somewhat sympathetic by giving him a victim the audience can kind of feel had it coming somewhat. That makes the story feel removed from the real-life situations it's supposedly based on and reinforces misogynistic tropes around female victims. 3, I think there's a degree of propaganda and how nice the police are to Jamie, like they go out of their way to make sure he has clean clothes, breakfast, and a lawyer. Thoughts? Just that I feel like we just have a really different read on the show. First of all, I would challenge the notion that it is about incel culture. I don't think the show is about incel culture. As you point out earlier in your question, it doesn't really delve very deeply into the incel thing at all. The incel thing is mentioned and is a thread that runs through it and is sort of presented as a threat that the parents weren't aware of, and is sort of the thing that drove Jamie to do what he did. But the show is not about incel culture. The show is about the effect that it had on the characters, that this kid, this teenager, Jamie, was drawn into incel culture and was motivated uh, to act with violence against this girl who had made fun of him, or, whatever. Um, so I don't have a problem with that part of it. And what you say about, because the plot isn't specific to incel culture, then it could have been the story could have been set in the 70s. Well, I mean, I think the plot could have been, yeah, but I mean, what makes it different is the specific details that are, specific to this era and specific to this subject matter. I feel like that's kind of a strange criticism. You could say that about almost any story. If you take out the elements that make this story specific to this time and place, then it could be about anything. If you take out the organized crime stuff, why The Godfather could be a story set in the Middle Ages. Like, well, of course it could. Like, if you're just going to look at it in terms of just the bare plot. And I don't know. I don't think it makes Jamie sympathetic. I think it humanizes him. I think it makes him other than a monster, but I don't think it makes him, and it certainly doesn't make what he does sympathetic. Like, I don't think we're meant to say, well, poor Jamie. I mean, that the girl bullied him, so she had it coming. Like, I really don't think that is the intended message of the show. And I think one of the big indicators of that even though the details of the crime are such that Jamie attacks a girl who makes fun of him, I think one of the big sort of clues that the show gives us, that we are not supposed to be on Jamie's side, and we are not supposed to think less of the victim or think that the victim brought it on herself, is there's that beautiful shot at the end of episode 2 where it turns into a drone shot, and leaves the school and flies across town to the parking lot, to the site of the killing. And where do we end with that shot? Where does that shot take us? It takes us to Jamie's father, Eddie, who is leaving flowers at the site of the killing. The father of the kid who killed the girl has gone to the site to lay flowers at the spot where she was murdered by his son, to pay his respects, and I think implicitly to apologize or to express regret for what his son did. So I really don't think we're supposed to be against the girl at all. And as for the propaganda thing, I just took that as, I mean, yes, you could easily read it as propaganda. I took it as, oh, this is how cops should treat everybody. Now, I mean, do cops treat everybody like that? I'm quite certain they don't. Even in the UK, I'm quite certain they don't. But I took it as, especially since it's, in general, it is not a cop show. Like, the cops are present in multiple episodes, but they're not really the main characters. And I don't feel like it's an aim of the show to make us think like, oh, this is how police, this is supposed to make us support the cops because of the way they're, I looked at it as, oh, wouldn't it be nice if cops really did treat everybody the way they're treating this kid? But anyway, those are just, that's what I think. Ace, who is your 8th favorite Star Trek character? Who is my 8th favorite Star Trek character? The crystalline entity. Amy Gravel, would you like to see Kestra, Riker, Troi in a future series? I see her at the Academy with Elnor. No. See my previous answer about how I want them to make up new characters and not just keep bringing back old characters. Nothing against Kestra, nothing against her character. I thought she was, fun in her, one episode of season 1 of Picard. I thought she was fine. But no, I don't need to see her again. And I don't think she necessarily needs to go to Starfleet Academy just because she's Riker and Troy's daughter. Carlisle the Cinephile. Hello, Steve. I don't have a question this week, but I do have something I'd like to say to you. Back when I was in high school and first exploring the possibility that I'm an atheist, I began to watch videos from The Amazing Atheist, Armored Skeptic, and some of the other channels that were big at the time. And as their content began to shift toward anti-feminism and things like that, I began to parrot the talking points they made. But when I also discovered your content, it resonated with me far more and reflected what I truly believed deep down. It also led me to actually listen to the people they claimed were so cringe had to say. That led me to examine my biases more closely and try to be more cognizant of them. They also more accurately reflected the values I truly held. I could have easily become an edgelord shithead or lost myself in an even worse way, and I avoided that in part thanks to you. I'll always be grateful for that. Well, thank you for saying that. That means a lot to me. I am grateful for whatever small part I may have played in that, but don't forget to give yourself credit too, um, because not everybody questions their own biases the way you did. Not everybody is open to admitting that they were wrong or recognizing that maybe they have been influenced in a way that they didn't actually want to be or weren't aware of until they were aware of it. Like not everybody wakes up like that, you know? So you deserve some credit too. I mean, I am happy to accept your compliment. I'm happy to say thank you for saying that. And it genuinely does mean something to me. Um, but don't forget that it was you that were open to hearing differing points of view. It was you who said, hey, all the people these guys are talking shit about, let me go watch their stuff myself and make up my own mind. And that's what you did. So good for you for doing that. And thank you again for saying nice things about me. Um, David K, given the considerable overlap between Star Trek fans and fantasy fans, I'm sure many of your viewers are quite surprised at your occasionally expressed scorn towards, say, Lord of the Rings films. I'd be interested to hear more of your thoughts on that. High fantasy bores the shit out of me. It really doesn't come down to anything more complicated than that. High fantasy bores the shit out of me, and a lot of it is due to the self-important tone. There's a certain voice in high fantasy writing and in high fantasy shows and movies of, just sort of self-importance. Um, you know, like, oh, this a ponderousness, an unseemly fascination with their own stuff, um, a pretentiousness, a lack of self-awareness, a lack of self-deprecation or sense of humor about themselves or their subjects. There's just a lot about high fantasy that I just find deeply unpleasant and deeply boring, and I would rather gnaw off my own arm than spend 5 minutes paying attention to any of it. But it's basically that. It's basically that. So you can imagine why my attitude toward the Lord of the Rings films is as shitty as it is. Like, oh, I need to sit here for 3 hours and listen to this fucking shit. Listen to this shit that was written by people who apparently thought that the books this is adapted from were like the fucking Bible or something. Like that's the pedestal they have placed this on. Like, oh, we're adapting the Lord of the Rings. Let's write it like it's the most important shit ever written, right? It's just spare me all of that, please. Yeah, not a fan of Lord of the Rings, not a fan of high fantasy in general. Matthias, hi Steve. I really feel for, and by the way, when things I like are written that way, I don't like that either. Like Star Trek and Star Wars aren't usually written that way, but sometimes they are, and I don't like that either. Anyway, Matthias. Hi, Steve. I really feel for the plight of you Democrats in the U.S. Capitalism has long infected the U.K. political system, too. However, somehow UK workers have ended up being legally entitled to 28 days paid annual leave entitlement. By contrast, it seems like the GOP seem to have rigged the U.S. political system so that Democratic voters can always expect workers' rights legislation to fall foul to a Senate filibuster and then undone at the first opportunity. My question, do you agree with me that, as a rule, societies get anchored in the past whenever they judge ideas to be so self-evident that they write them down in ink and revere the resulting document so much that they put it behind a protective display? In my view, this is what would seem to give the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution the same perceived permanence as certain devout religious folk across the world assign to the gay-bashing parts of the various religious Bibles. Thanks for everything you do. I think you're onto something there. I mean, I do think we Americans are definitely way too reverent of our Constitution, um, or reverent of the wrong thing, reverent of it in the wrong way, reverent in the sense that it is revered as a document, as though that document should be permanent and unchanged, and as you say in your question, like treated like Holy Scripture. To me, the worst thing about Holy Scripture is that you can't change it. Or at least under most interpretations, under more sort of conservative fundamentalist interpretations, you're not supposed to, like, the revelation was given thousands of years ago, and it is what it is, and that's the way it is, and we should never change it. That's the worst thing about it. It should be able to change. And our Constitution and our laws that exist under the authority of the Constitution, they can be changed. They are subject to a rule of law, but also to popular will, to democratic processes. And when we find, because of our superior enlightenment after many years, after we have educated ourselves and gained a new sensitivity or a new point of view, because society has grown and changed and evolved over the years, if we determine that there is a particular part of the Constitution that we would be better off without, there are legal mechanisms for us to take it away, to get rid of it, if enough of us want to do that. And by the same token, if we find that the Constitution is lacking in some way, and there's something that isn't in there that enough of us feel is important enough to put in there, to not just pass a law, but to make it constitutional, there's a mechanism for us to do that too. We just don't do that relatively often. We've only done it a couple of dozen times in the entire history of the country. And I suppose in some ways that's good, but in some ways it's not so good, because we have come to revere the document as like an icon instead of revering what it represents, which is, not to be too corny, but a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Like, that's what's special about the Constitution, not the specific state of it at any one point in history, what it represents, what it enables us to do. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's not so much that you write the thing down. It's what you say about putting it behind glass, like putting it behind a protective display. That's the wrong attitude to have. I mean, yes, we should, if you have an original document that was signed by the founding fathers, that's like a historical artifact, yes, absolutely. Put it behind glass, put it in a museum, let everybody come and marvel at it. What a beautiful piece of American history. That's great. I get that completely. But the ideas enshrined in it should be allowed to grow and change and evolve with the needs of the society that it was drafted to govern in the first place. When you lose sight of that, you lose sight of something very, very important, I think. Brian McKinley, who is feeling better after getting his meds adjusted. Well, good. Glad to hear that. Hi, Steve. I'm sticking to a light topic because politics is just too depressing. So my question is, what are your thoughts on the movie Time After Time with the wonderful David Warner and Malcolm McDowell? Lots of Star Trek alums here, and it's been a favorite movie of mine since I was a kid. I liked it so much, in fact, that it made me start reading the works of H.G. Wells and books on Jack the Ripper. Thanks for the great videos. Oh, I love Time After Time. I love Time After Time. I do kind of wish they had gone for sort of the more bittersweet, melancholy ending. I do kind of wish that it had ended with HG going back to his own time by himself instead of having Amy go along with him. But other than that, I think it's great. It's Nicholas Meyer. He wrote and directed it. It's the first movie that he directed. And it has his wonderful sort of ironic sense of humor all the way through it. And without actually ever being like, it's not a full-blown comedy or anything, but it has a wonderful, like, sort of, it was made in 1979, but it feels older than that. It has a very kind of 1950s, 1960s quality to it. Like, there, especially with the music. I love the score of it. The score of it, sometimes it reminds me of like how Bernard Herrmann's scores in Hitchcock movies would sometimes go overboard. Like the score would be doing so much work to get you invested in the scene, to get your blood pumping, where you're like, oh man, this is exciting. Oh man, this is suspenseful. And like what was actually happening on screen wasn't quite as exciting, as the music was making it sound. And there are moments like that in Time After Time where you're just like, man, the score is just going for it here, you know, and what's happening on screen, like it's not bad or anything, but it's not quite as pulse pounding as the music is trying to convince you it is. And that and I like that. I'm not saying that as a criticism. Like it gives it a certain vibe that I find really appealing. And yes, obviously Malcolm McDowell is great. David Warner is great. It's just a lot of fun. I like it a lot, and I'm glad you like it too. I really, really like that movie. Damian Williams, I know generally Lower Decks is not your bag, and it's okay to agree to disagree. You don't have to like everything I like. I'm not a psycho who makes what I watch or who I vote for. Fuck Trump, my entire personality. But I wanted to see if you agree with me on something. Lower Decks is the one ship-based show that really shows the diversity of Starfleet. DS9 had its share of aliens on the station because of its premise, but Lower Decks is the only show set on a ship that has a crew that's more than 300 humans and 2 token aliens that aren't just identical to humans. You have an Orion, a Cation, a Bajaran, a Vulcan, an Andorian, a Tellarite, and many other aliens regularly appearing as crew. That's the one thing animation affords us that live action can't. Agree? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, I think that's probably the main reason that it doesn't cost any more to draw a character as an alien than it does to draw them as a human. So why not, put a bunch more aliens in it? Yeah, I'll give it credit for that. I mean, I think I have said before, uh, maybe in my videos, I know, and I've talked about this either on streams like this or on other people's shows. I really don't care about the aliens. Like if there's a Star Trek show, either a new one or an old one, where it's like a Starfleet crew and it's all humans, I don't care. I'm fine with that. Like as long as the cast, I do think racial and ethnic diversity in the cast is crucial to Star Trek. Like I don't want it to just be a bunch of white people, and I don't want it to be just a bunch of men. Like I want there to be a diverse cast. I think that's part of what is in Star Trek's DNA. That's part of what makes it Star Trek, diversity, and the embrace of it, and the presentation of it as a good thing and as a strength. So like I want characters that are depicted as being from different countries and actors from different countries. And I want different colors and different races and different religions and different accents and different ethnicities and men and women and queer characters of all kinds. Like I want it to be a super diverse cast. But do I care if any of them are aliens? No, I do not. I could not give less of a shit if any of them were aliens. And in fact, I might not even, if it's a good enough show, I might not even notice it unless somebody pointed it out, because I don't really care. Um, but yes, Lower Decks did have a lot of, and Lower Decks did also have, people of color in the cast. And I mean, Lower Decks did meet the diversity requirement of Star Trek in terms of like diversity of the actual actors and diversity on screen of the different characters. So yes, I will absolutely give it credit for that. Jim P. Hello, Mr. Shives. Hope your day is going well. On a recent Ask Hank Anything on Hank Green's Complexly channel, he had a conversation that turned to empathy. The thought was that there has been no time in human history that we've asked people to have a wider circle of empathy. Historically, it's just been your family and immediate social circle. There was no real conclusion made during that convo, but my question is, what can we do to help people expand their circle of empathy? I don't think what we've currently done is working very well, and simply saying educate them seems like a cop-out somehow. So what do you think? Have a great show. Um, I mean, educate them is a little vague. So is this, what I'm about to say, but it's slightly less vague. Tell people stories. We're creatures of narrative. We respond to story. We respond to narrative. We are storytellers. We are listeners to stories and watchers of stories. That's part of what makes us human, is that we are creatures of story, creatures of narrative. And I think story and narrative, whether it's delivered through the written word or through film or through music or through live performance or through some other medium, I think story and narrative can be a powerful engine for empathy. I think if you can show someone that they can identify with a character in a story or with a real person that they are hearing a story about, I think you can expand a person's empathy. I think if you show someone that they can become deeply and truly emotionally invested in a character in a story, that if that person is open-minded enough, and if that person is sort of, receptive to it, that can expand a person's empathy. That's one of the reasons why representation, to go back to the Star Trek topic from the previous question, that's one of the reasons why representation is so important. Yes, it is extremely important for the people who are being represented. Like let's say if you are a trans person and you start to see other trans people in your favorite TV shows or in film or depicted in books or whatever, yes, that is incredibly important to you because you see yourself represented. You see your existence and the existence of people like you being acknowledged and being treated as though you're here, you're real, you count, you exist, you're part of us, right? That's incredibly important. But it's also important for people who aren't like that trans person in this example. It's important for cis people like me to see stories that feature characters who are different than me, that ask me to identify with them, that ask me to care about them, that ask me to become invested in their fate. Like, that's important to people who are different than the character too, because it trains you to empathize with people beyond your family, beyond your social circle, beyond your culture, your race, your gender, your whatever. It shows you that your empathy can be extended to anybody, not just to people who are like you. And I think that's very important. So, I mean, again, do I have a 5-step plan on how to implement that to make people more empathetic? No. But I do think that storytelling and specifically telling stories about many, many different kinds of people and telling different kinds of stories about different kinds of people so that we can all identify with people different than ourselves. I do think that should be part of it and would be effective in the long run to make people more receptive and more empathetic. Agent Meister, mourning the loss of the American dream. If there ever was such a thing, the American dream died in 2015, buddy. Dusty Rose, the American dream, passed away. He's been gone for 10 years now, baby. But deep in the hearts of the people, the American dream will live forever. In the hearts of the public, if you will, the American dream will never die, baby. I'm just going to do the whole rest of the show as Dusty. Is that okay with everybody? Hey, Steve, less a question than a lament this week. Most on my side of the Atlantic are watching the goings-on in your country with an ever-growing sense of depression. Apart from Trump's carry-on with the tariffs, which was less trade war and more like insider trading, if some sources are to be believed. Yeah, sources like Trump. Sources like Trump himself. We're watching U.S. citizens being lifted off the street by ICE for no reason. U.S. citizens who are critical of Trump, afraid to leave the country because they don't know if they'll be allowed back in. The persecution/deportation of anyone speaking out against the genocide in Gaza, freedom of speech. The promotion of RFK's quack medicine while funding for R&D is being slashed and NIH personnel are banned from traveling abroad. The treatment of the LGBTQ community and the disgusting treatment of Zelensky, land of the free, my tailbone. I can't believe that the majority of Americans, whatever their shade of red or blue, are happy that this guy is representing them on the world stage. What is going on? We have short memories and not enough of us vote. I mean, it's not that simple. It's way more complicated than that, but a lot of it is we have short memories. We're gullible people. Not enough of us vote. We are reluctant to do anything that might bring about change because we don't like change. And yeah, I mean, we're just ignorant, lazy, intellectually lazy, not just physically lazy. We're ignorant, lazy, gullible people. I mean, and we don't take things seriously. Any country that took its government seriously, that took its society and its laws seriously, would never allow someone like Donald Trump to get anywhere close to a position of leadership. That would never happen. But, you know, we are at the state that we're at. And it's not entirely our fault. We have been fed propaganda. We have been fed misinformation for decades. You know, we have been acted upon by influences that have rendered us, you know, to be what we are now. But the fact remains, I mean, we do have the power and the responsibility to do something about it, and not enough of us are. You know, I mean, and yes, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of Americans who are very, very, very unhappy with what's going on right now. And many of them did vote against this, including myself. Many of us did vote against this and do other things against it leading up to Trump's election. But a lot of the people who are complaining about it now either voted for it or didn't vote for anything. And that is not the entirety of the problem, but that is a big part of the problem. That is a big part of the problem. The Grumpy Monkey. How now, Steve? Transformers came up an Ask Away or two ago, and you mentioned that you had a fondness for the 80s cartoon, though not so much for the modern iteration of the franchise. I would love to know, who was your favorite Autobot? Who was your favorite Decepticon? And while I'm at it, C, who was your favorite Ninja Turtle? And D, is Will Riker or Ben Sisko your favorite Star Trek character, or is it just that Ben Sisko is your favorite captain? Oh, and by the way, I love the video you made about targeted ads. I don't know why, but I consider you dubbing yourself toward the end as being the pinnacle of human achievement. And it left me doubled over with guffaws. Thank you, Mr. Shives, for touching my life with that little drop of magic. Well, I'm glad you liked it, and please do not expand your horizons any further, so you can continue to think that my goofy little skit at the end of that video was the pinnacle of human. I like that bit too. I really like that bit too. I think it turned out good, so I'm glad you enjoyed it. My favorite Autobot was Hot Rod, or as he was known for far too brief of a time, Rodimus Prime, when he took over as the leader after Optimus was killed off, before Optimus was brought back. Favorite Decepticon, obviously, anybody who says it's not Starscream has given you the wrong answer. I know that opinions are subjective and there's no such thing as an objectively wrong opinion, but if anybody says their favorite Decepticon is anyone other than Starscream, they are objectively wrong. I know Soundwave is cool too. Okay, there's lots of cool Decepticons. Soundwave is cool. But the correct answer is Starscream. And who is my favorite Ninja Turtle? Probably Raphael. Either Raphael or Lee. I like Leonardo too. I mean, I liked all four of them. Probably Raphael. And is Will Riker or Ben Sisko my favorite character? Or is it just that Ben is my favorite captain? Yeah, that might be it. I mean, Ben Sisko he's definitely my favorite captain, but I do have to say, I mean, as much as I love Sisko, it's not Sisko that I have a portrait of hanging on my wall. You know what I'm saying? It's Riker. So I feel like, yeah, Riker would probably be my favorite character, and Sisko would be, I mean, right up there, like nipping at Riker's heels, and definitely my favorite captain for sure. So yeah, and thank you again for saying nice things about my video. I appreciate it. Brian Baker, Steve spent last week in the hospital with some blood clots and this week taking it easy for recovery. I decided to binge all 3 seasons of one of my favorite television shows, The Newsroom, on Max. It's a great look at the news from the Obama era and shows the start of some of the Trump era rebuke of Obama. I thought it would be a nice break from the news, but it was a reminder that Reagan changed the course of American politics after Nixon. Anyway, have you seen The Newsroom, and what did you think of it? Keep up the good work. I have never actually seen The Newsroom. It's one of those shows that I'm sure I should watch at some point and would probably enjoy, but I just haven't had time to watch it. I will say, in general, I do think he has some flaws as a writer, but overall, I am a fan of Aaron Sorkin's writing. One of the things I like about him is that he assumes that his audience is smart. He assumes that his audience knows about the world and knows about current events. He doesn't write to a perceived dumb, inattentive, ignorant audience. He writes to an audience that he perceives as being, at least for a popular television audience, you know, relatively sophisticated and in the know. And I've always appreciated that about his writing. Kara, aka the Tolkien Nerd. Hi, Steve. I have been watching a TV series on YouTube about sci-fi stories, and I'm surprised by just how apocalyptic they are. Most of them end with humanity either destroying itself or leaving the Earth in such a state that it will not support life for the next billion years. As you might imagine, this is a bit depressing. However, of all the sci-fi stories, the one that stands out above all others is, of course, Star Trek in all its iterations. Would you agree that this is why Star Trek has a longevity? Because while it says we will still struggle to forge a path, that a path to peace can be found without us having to destroy one another to do it? I appreciate this might be my naivete, hoping for the best, because Star Trek is fictional. However, compared to other TV series, Star Trek's message of hope and resilience seems to have endured. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. I'd love to write lots more, but only have 1,000 characters to ask my question, Kara. Yeah, I think that's a part of it. I think that's a big part of its appeal, that it is, generally speaking, it's optimistic. It's optimistic about the future of humanity. If you look back at when Star Trek started in the 60s, most other science fiction that portrayed humans encountering aliens, the aliens were always a threat. The universe beyond Earth was a dangerous place that just brought nothing but danger and death and invasion and destruction. It was something to be defended against. And Star Trek had an alien as a member of the crew, Mr. Spock, and he was one of the heroes. And there were other aliens that they met. I mean, when the Enterprise went on an adventure on an episode of Star Trek, and when whatever the hero ship of any of the other Star Trek shows that came after would go out on an adventure, they would often meet aliens that were threats, but they would also meet aliens that were friends, or aliens that were misunderstood, or aliens that they had difficulty with at first, but then they were able to forge alliances with. And in general, the universe, just like real life here on planet Earth, was a very diverse, a very rich place to experience. And yes, you could have very terrible, bad experiences, but you could also have wonderful, life-affirming, educational, enlightening, adventurous experiences. It was an adventure to be had. And I think that is a big part of the appeal of Star Trek. Not, and yes, as you say in your question, the optimistic view of humanity's future, specifically the idea that, hey, we can solve our problems, we can get past what is holding us back, and we can build a better future for ourselves, and we can build a better, kinder, more equitable society for everybody. Like, that is possible, and we can get there if we work at it and we get over our bullshit and drop a lot of the baggage we carry around. Like, that is very important. And that is a huge part of the appeal. But I also think it's beyond that. It's the depiction of the universe as the setting for an adventure, not something that we should be afraid of. I think that's a big part of it too. Siamak, who is struggling with 1,000 characters this week, so I'll say I hope you're well here. Aha! You've cracked it. You've figured it out. Greetings, Steve. I got out on the 5th with tens of thousands in Philly and over 5 million people nationally. It was a heartening and invigorating experience, helped with some organizing since. But the 5th represented over 1.5% of the population. I heard colloquially that studies say governments change direction or fall at 3.5%. I don't have the study, so I could be totally wrong here. Did the 5th lead to direct change? No, but it's creating the atmosphere for change, for scaring those in power, to remind them the power ultimately lies with us. The next big one is 4/19. Given the significance of the date, the organizers are calling for U.S. flags to be bought. Apparently, it really confused the MAGA folks that anyone who opposes them has any sense of patriotism. I'm generally not a flag guy, but I ordered one from my rep because I am a confused MAGA guy, so I'll be carrying one, and the SS we wanted was Social Security sign. Thoughts on MAGA confusion or otherwise? I love that idea for a sign. Yeah, well, I mean, the thing, people on the MAGA side are easily confused because they are accustomed to setting their own narrative and to only receiving a narrative that they already agree with. And a lot of them, I do think, are genuinely convinced that people to the left of them hate America. Like, not that we have a different concept of America, not that we love our country too, but in a different way, in what we think of as a more critical and thoughtful and hopefully productive way, a way that allows us to recognize its problems and want to fix them instead of just pretending that everything is great and we're awesome and anybody who says we're not awesome hates us, right? They don't see it that way. Like, they see it as, oh, those people who are against President Trump, they just hate America. I think they genuinely believe that because that's the story they've, again, going back to narrative, like that's the story they've been told for a long time, that conservatives, people on the right, have a monopoly on patriotism, have a monopoly on love of country. And of course, that's not true. That's never been true. But that's the story they've been told. So when they see liberals, progressives, leftists going to marches, going to protests, waving American flags, talking about how much they love this country and how much they want to fight for it and how much they want to make it better for everybody, like that can be confusing to them because they've gotten used to the fact of, oh, I thought they hated the United States. I thought they wanted to destroy the country. When that's not true at all. And I mean, also, it's hard to avoid confusing MAGA people because they're so easily confused by virtually everything. Isaiah Taylor, I have a bit of bad news. I had to move my Kennedy Space Center trip to September because of a fuck up with Airbnb and my job to September instead, after the summer cleaning season. Sorry that you get to see me in my early 80s flight suit in front of the shuttle Atlantis. Stay tuned for that in September. It really bummed me because I was going to meet a bunch of space shuttle astronauts, including Eileen Collins, the first female shuttle commander. Fuck me. But at least I got to meet Fred Hayes that one time from Apollo 13. Question: what is your favorite Apollo moon mission? I'm starting to love Apollo 8. Man, those guys had balls of steel to do what they did. Once again, sorry for missing going to the Cape. I'm sorry that you're going to have to wait longer than you thought you would too. Apollo 8 is a good one. Yeah, Apollo 8 is a good one. That was a huge milestone. I mean, obviously, Apollo 11 was the big one with the actual landing and walking on the moon, but Apollo 8 was a huge moment. And Apollo 8, my favorite part about Apollo 8 is that it came at the end of such a horrible year. 1968 was such a tumultuous, violent, terrible year. And then at the end of it, in December, at the end of December, over the Christmas season, there's this ray of hope. There's this moment of amazing human achievement where human beings are flying to the moon and back for the first time. And it's just this little glimmer of joy and hope at the end of an otherwise really depressing year. For me personally, I have to say Apollo 14, just because that's the mission where my hero, my favorite astronaut, Alan Shepard, walked on the moon. So it's totally selfish reasons. Historically, I don't think you can make an argument that it was more important than Apollo 8 or Apollo 11 or Apollo 13, even though Apollo 13, didn't actually accomplish its intended mission. It was still a triumph of guts and grit and courage and ingenuity to get them back home safe. But Apollo 14, that's where Alan Shepard walked on the moon and hit a golf ball on the moon. And it's, he was the first American in space. And he hung in there long enough to get to walk on the moon. And and obviously this all happened before I was born, but when I learned that as a child for the first time, that made me very happy. And I was very happy for Alan Shepard that he got to do that. Because like I said, he was my hero, and he still is. So yeah, Apollo 14 is my favorite. Stephen G. Clenard. Hey, Steve, innocent people are being rounded up and sent to death prisons, and we knew in advance that this kind of shit was on the line in the presidential election. The electoral process has dire implications, and there are indeed critical differences between governance under Democrats, however feckless, and tyranny under Republicans. I don't want to hear one more motherfucker try to tell us how terrible the Democrats are. Tell it to the people waiting to die in El Salvadorian prison. Sorry, no actual questions or jokes from me today. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. And then how many times has this happened just in the last 10 years where you have some dipshit, some doofus, some holier than thou dipshit who is like, well, the Democrats and the Republicans are basically the same. And then the Republicans get a little bit of power and, oh, there go abortion rights. Oh, look, They're separating families in ICE camps. Oh wait, now they're doing something even worse. Now they're literally sending people to foreign prisons. You know? And yeah, you're right. Yeah, the Democrats are a deeply flawed party and a deeply disappointing party in many ways, and hopefully we can change that, but for now it is what it is. They have failed to meet the moment in multiple ways. And I say that, as I always make sure to note, I say that as a registered Democrat. I'm talking about my party when I talk about how we have fallen short. But if you say that there is no difference between the Democrats and the Republicans, and that it doesn't make a difference whether the Democrats or the Republicans are in charge, you are a shithead, and I have no reason to take you seriously. You are an ignorant shithead if you honestly believe that. Criticize the Democrats, absolutely. It is vital, it is critical that we criticize the Democrats and challenge them and demand that they do better and hold their feet to the fire and try to shift that party as far to the left and make them as progressive as we possibly can for the sake of everybody. That's important. But it accomplishes nothing. Actually, it doesn't. It helps the Republicans is what it accomplishes. When some dipshit thinking that they are, smarter than everybody else, they've figured it out. Democrats and Republicans, I mean, they're essentially the same party. You look at who Democrats appoint to the Supreme Court and who Republicans appoint to the Supreme Court, and you tell me they're the same fucking party. You look at how Democrats and Republicans deal with immigrants, and you tell me they're the same fucking party. And I'm not saying Democrats deal with immigrants good, especially in the last 20 years or so. The Democratic Party and the immigration policy under especially Biden was egregious, was fucking egregious. But was it as bad as Trump's? No, it was not. That's not an excuse to say that the Democrats did the right thing with immigrants. They didn't. But were they as bad as Republicans? No, they were not. Was there a difference? Yes, obviously there was. And obviously this right now is way worse than it was before. So yeah, I agree. I agree with you 100%. Glenn H., who shouldn't be posting these questions so late. I should stop procrastinating. Well, maybe tomorrow. Hey, Steve, I want to ask a question that goes to how the sausage is made. Have you ever had to screen or restrict questions on your askaways? Are there any messages that are inappropriate, hateful, or just completely out of line? What would you do if one of your patrons decided to just go off on a bigoted screed and you had to politely delete it and them from your list? I look forward to your answer. And if I see tomorrow that you didn't answer this question, I will also know the answer. Thanks in advance. Either way, have a great show. I maybe once a long time ago, somebody posted a question that was like trolling or bigoted or in bad faith or something. What in those instances, which again, incredibly rare, it just doesn't happen very often at all. But yeah, I delete the question and then I ban that person. That person is no longer my patron or my channel member. Like that person is gone. It's really an easy decision. And I usually don't even say anything to them. I don't even write them a message, say, I'm going to ban you now because of the blah, blah. No, if they did something that bad where if a patron or a member does something so bad that I feel like I need to ban them and end their patronage or membership or whatever, if it's that bad, they're not entitled to an explanation. They know what they did. So they're just gone. They're just fucking history. And yeah, that's how I handle that situation. Ruthlessly and without forgiveness. Donkey Hody, if the Orange Menace gets the parade he wants, do you think they'll only permit soldiers who are Trump loyalists to be involved? If not, they would surely inspect every weapon to be sure they're not loaded. One other thing, would it be better to go and protest or just stay away and ignore it? I mean, the protest thing is an individual decision. If you're able to go and you think it's important, then I would say go. But if you're not able to, I don't think you should beat yourself up over it. Yeah, I mean, I think if Trump could do it, he would want to have only Trump loyalists involved at every level of government, not just soldiers, not just people in the military, but everybody. He thinks everybody should be personally loyal to him, not to the country, not to the Constitution, not to anything, but him personally. So yes, I think he absolutely would do that. or he would at least want to do that. And not just because of the, make sure that their weapons are on, not just because he's afraid somebody will take a shot at him. That's just how he thinks. That's just what he believes. He thinks everybody should be personally loyal to him. Whether or not he's afraid of getting shot at, that's a separate issue. Even if he felt like he had no reason to worry about anybody ever shooting him, he would still want to just have people loyal to him. Air One Fire, who's killed it, and now he's going to eat it. Hi, Steve. Once again, I'm asking for your motivational support. I've asked you over a year ago how to stop procrastinating. I don't know if you remember. I'm self-employed. I have stopped accepting the work that gives me the most anxiety, but doing the work that is easier, which 3 to 4 hours a day should be enough, is still a problem. I might be a little better than I used to be, but still the amount of work is accruing, and once again, I have to be in damage repair mode. I'd be grateful for anything you can tell me, even if it's the same thing as last time. P.S. I just got this in the mail today from the UK, and I've never been happier, and it's huge. Cat for scale. And here is the image that Air One Fire included there. It is the Deep Space Nine companion. Cat for scale. So you can see, yes, it is indeed huge. Have you read it? Goes the rest of the question. I have not. I have not, but it looks cool. I hope you enjoy it. So I don't know if I said this to you last time or not, but here's something that I do. If I am faced with something that either I know I have to do or I know that I should do, but I really don't want to, I really don't feel motivated to do it, I just start doing it. Like, I just throw myself into it before I have a chance to talk myself out of it. I have found this is especially effective with exercise, but it is also effective if I'm writing something and I'm not motivated, I'm not excited about it, but maybe it's a video script that I know that if I do write it and I do finish it, it'll be good and it'll be a video I'll want to make, and it might even, be successful. And it's just something, or it's something that I need to make a video by a certain time. And I just need to start it and finish it. I just throw myself into it. I just start. Like, actually, I'll give you an example, an exercise related example. So during the week in the morning, I do like a calisthenics workout where I, like push-ups and sit-ups and squats and stuff like that. And some like, stuff with just relatively light, like free weights, like dumbbells type stuff. And part of what I do is planking, and I'll do like a traditional plank where it's just like a laid out, like basically a flat plank. And then I'll also do well, it's not really a plank, I guess, but it's like a holding, like a crawl position where you get down on your hands and knees in a crawl position. And then you have your hands and your feet, your toes on the floor. And then you pick your body up so your knees are off the floor and you hold that position. And my goal is for both the plank and the crawl position is to hold them both for 1 minute without, going down. And I do that 3 times. So I'll do that at the start of the workout. I'll do it in the middle of the workout when I'm kind of between, sets of things, and then I'll do it at the end. And there are many times, and this morning was one of those times, where as I was doing the exercises where I knew as soon as I get this done, it's time to do the plank and the crawl again for the 3rd time. And I was telling myself in my head, I think I'm going to skip it. I'm tired. I'm not having a good time. It took me longer than usual to get out of bed this morning. I wasn't feeling it. I was trying to sort of talk myself into just skipping the workout altogether, but I didn't. I got up and I started it. And now I'm thinking, I'll just skip the last plank and the last, crawl position thing. I don't need to. I've done 2 already. I don't need to do 3. I'll do 3 next time, like that kind of stuff. But when I finished that exercise and it was time to go into the plank, I just fucking did it. I didn't stop. I didn't give myself time to not want to do it. I didn't give myself time to either talk myself into it or talk myself out of it. I just went directly into it and I fucking did it. And then after that, I did the crawl thing and I did my last set of squats, which is the last thing I do. And I just did it. I didn't give myself a chance to think about it. When the time came to do it, I just went for it. I don't know if there's a way you can translate that into your work or not, but I have found that to be incredibly effective, both with exercise and with, doing stuff like creative stuff and work related stuff. Like, just start, just fucking do it. Sometimes when I'm going for a walk, I'll go for like a long walk in the park, and I usually do 2 laps around the park, which ends up being, from my house, 2 laps around the park and back is about 5 miles. So I'll do that walk. Sometimes I'll have time and I'll feel good enough that I'll think, oh, maybe I'll do a 3rd lap, right? Then I start getting close to the end of the 2nd lap, and I do the same thing. And I'm like, I don't need to do 3 laps. I can just go home. And I just keep walking. I get to the park. I get to the exit of the park where I would normally turn to leave to come home, and I just walk right past it. And now I've started my 3rd lap. Might as well finish it. I'm not going to turn around and go back, right? I'm just going to keep walking forward. I've already started the 3rd lap. I might as well finish it. So that I find that helps me. I don't know if that will help you or not, but I find that kind of thing helps me. Andy Lawler thinks it's a shame that citizens are being deported to foreign prisons, but at least Gazans are still being massacred. Am I right? Hey, Steve, have you ever had to completely cut a good friend or family member out of your life? I ended 2 35-year friendships because of their 100% immersion in the grab 'em by the pussy cult. One of these former friends refused to denounce his actual honest-to-God Hitler-quoting Nazi congressional representative to me, an ethnic Jew. I've also ended all contact with my sister because she chose my ex in my divorce. I mean, I went scorched earth on all of them. I hope your answer is no, but I'm curious if you've ever been pushed to this extreme. Thanks, and have a great weekend, everybody. Yes and no. When I was a teenager and into my early to mid 20s, I had a friend who was my very, very best friend, and we eventually were roommates and like shared an apartment together for 4 or 5 years. And then when we kind of just grew apart. We didn't get along as well as we used to. Our lives started to go in different directions. Our personalities started to clash a lot more than they used to when we were younger. And we lived together for a while, and then when we moved out and we lived separately again, I just decided, okay, this is going to be a clean break. Like, I'm not going to go through the aggravation of keeping this person in my life when it's no longer really, I'm no longer really getting anything out of this, so, and we haven't spoken since. And I've done that with people online that I was not necessarily like very close to, but that I had good relations with until something came up that made me reconsider that. Like, there were, especially back during the days when I was doing more atheism focused stuff with my YouTube channel, and I was friends with a lot of other atheist YouTubers. And then they kind of like Carlisle the Cinephile was referring to in the earlier question, when they started going kind of down the alt-right path or the anti-feminist path. And some of these were guys that I was really good pals with. We would collaborate together. We would do like, hangouts together. And I had, I liked them. I had good feelings about them. I considered them maybe not close friends, but I considered them friends. And then once it became obvious that this was the direction they were going, I said, all right, fuck off. Like, if I'm old enough, if I'm capable of recognizing that this is wrong, then so are you. And if you either don't recognize that, or you do recognize it, but you're doing this anyway because you think there's money in it, or you think there's success that way, we're not friends. And cut off. And I mean, especially like some of them sort of were buddies with people who had like specifically been harassing me or harassing my wife, because I was married at the time. And there were a lot of alt-right, anti-feminist, atheist types who said some really, really fucking nasty shit about my wife and about me and about our relationship. And I mean, you're just dead to me at that point. I don't tolerate that. I don't care who you are. If I'm with somebody, and like my wife and I are no longer together, but we were at the time, and I wouldn't tolerate if anybody started talking shit about her to me now. And we've been divorced for 5 years. That I don't put up with that. That's not acceptable. If somebody does that shit to me or does that about somebody I care about, you're fucking dead to me. You're fucking dead to me. So yes, I mean, I have done it, but not quite to the level that you're describing. But I have done, I am definitely also a scorched earth type of person. Yes. Dana, this week has been full of ups and downs. Saturday was the protest, of course, which went really well and drew a good crowd. Saw a student vaping in class and had to report it. Got a set of letters back from our 5th grade pen pals. My freshmen and sophomores are rarely as engaged as they are when writing to the Munchkins. Went to the funeral of a parent of another student. Student 3 is a bump on a log and does well with one-on-one support, but it's difficult to accomplish that in a class full of students. And the SAVE Act passed the House. I'm tired, Steve, and I don't think I have the mental bandwidth to read the entire bill. Excuse me. I've heard some people say that a real ID wouldn't work because it isn't listed in the bill. I would think that it should, but that is likely to be determined by the language of the bill as well as how it's interpreted. Are people going to need to bring birth certificates or passports when they go to vote? Or is it just when you register or update registration? I looked this up on there's an AP article about it. I have not read the text of the bill either, but according to the AP article, if you are already registered to vote, you should be fine. You shouldn't have to worry about it. But if you are going to register, like if the SAVE Act does actually become the law, and you will be registering to vote after that, yes, you may have to show a passport or a birth certificate or you need to show some documentation that establishes that you are a citizen. Now, a real ID qualified driver's license might be good enough and it might not. The AP article suggested that certain real IDs wouldn't be good enough because even though they are real ID, they don't specify that the bearer of the ID is a citizen. So if your state has a real ID format where it says on the driver's license, this person is a U.S. citizen, then that should be fine. But a real ID that doesn't say that might not be. And again, as you say, a lot of this is going, if it does indeed become law, a lot of this will be open to interpretation. It might be determined in the courts, things like that. So we shall see. It sucks. It's an unnecessary law to solve a non-existent problem, but that's what Republicans do. Russell, hey Steve, hope you are well. This is my Patreon question. I discovered something interesting these last 2 weeks. I'm a member to various other channels, and a few of them recently asked how I came up with the name Kirok. Surely I don't need to explain to you how I did. Anyways, it got me to wonder, especially since at least 2 of these channels have done Star Trek reviews. Yes, the films. How could they have missed this? Oh well, I will be lost on that one. So I got to thinking about the episode Paradise Syndrome. And yes, I will admit it has its flaws, but also it has a few moments of Kirk that I adore. The part where he is yelling, "I am Kirok." My question, though, is that I was watching Voyager again, and there is a parallel episode in Voyager that I admire called The 37s. Now, as a whole, I value UTOS higher regard to Voyager, but in this comparison, Voyager wins out. Are there any episodes inside Trek where a series as a whole is weaker than said series, but the parallel episode is better? I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking of like parallel episodes like Measure of a Man in TNG and Ad Astra Per Aspera in Strange New Worlds. But I don't think that counts. Like, I don't think... I'm not sure if Ad Astra Per Aspera is better than Measure of a Man. They're both really fucking good episodes, but I'm not sure if I would say that. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head. I'm sure there probably are, but I can't think of any. And Russell's second question, because as a member, hey, Steve, real brief, this is my member message. I normally won't be doing this. Okay. But In light of Val Kilmer's recent passing and everyone speaking of the greats he is in, why doesn't anyone mention Willow? Well, people have mentioned Willow in the comments of my video when I did my tombstone centered tribute to him this week. There were a lot of people in the comments of that video mentioning Willow as their favorite Val Kilmer movie, or as the one that they wanted to watch, or the one that they think of first when they think of Val Kilmer. So, I mean, I don't think you're the only person to think of Willow. I didn't mention it because I don't think it's that good of a movie. Like I love Val Kilmer. I love Warwick Davis. I think they're both great. I don't think it's that great of a movie. So that was not the movie I wanted to watch when I heard that Val Kilmer had passed away. I mean, as you saw in the video I made, I wanted to watch Tombstone, and I did, and I'm glad I did because I love the hell out of that movie. But no, I think lots of people. I mean, I haven't read every single remembrance of Val Kilmer that's been published since he died, or watched every single tribute video that's been made or whatever since he died. But I mean, I've seen lots of people mention Willow as the movie of his that they remember the most fondly. Joe McClory. So I was working on actually doing some of the first draft of Second Richest Man. And while taking a break from the list of those that died before the world discovered the pattern, I took a break and started a new book from John Scalzi, When the Moon Hits Your Eye, about the moon turning into cheese. So it seems I am in the headspace of high concept fiction done with an eye toward realistic guesses how we might deal with them. Do you have any recommendations for high concept fiction? The more obscure, the better. You are talking to the wrong guy, buddy. I have no suggestions whatsoever. I do not read nearly as much as I would need to have suggestions for you. So I apologize for my inadequacy in that way. But you know, as I always say in response to questions like this, where I don't really have an answer, anybody in the live chat, if you have suggestions for obscure high concept fiction for Joe, please throw them into the chat. And finally, from M.W. Ridra. So I haven't seen much major news coverage on this, but smaller outlets like Medium are reporting that there is a good chance that Donald Trump is going to declare martial law on April 20th, based on a recommendation that is due from Hegseth on that date. That seems terrifying. Why do you think there's not more reporting on this? Have you heard of it? Do you have any thoughts? I don't think there's any reporting on it because at this point it's just an unsubstantiated rumor. I mean, you say outlets like Medium are reporting. Well, Medium isn't really a news outlet. Medium is like a blog site, basically. I mean, there are serious journalists and serious people who write for Medium, but it's not like Medium is, you know, NBC News or something like that. So no, I mean, yes, it is terrifying. It's a terrifying prospect, but I think the reason why it hasn't gotten more mainstream coverage is because apparently the mainstream or serious professional journalists who cover the White House have not seen any credible evidence that this is coming down the pike. So, you know, I mean, I'm certainly not saying that Trump would never do that. Of course he would. He would do anything. I mean, I don't think we can afford to start thinking that way. But at this point, it doesn't seem like anything more than an unsubstantiated rumor, an assumption based on the fact that there is a report about whether or not it would be whether or not the Insurrection Act should be invoked regarding the border. That's the report that is due from the Defense Department and the State Department on the 20th. So yeah, that's sort of the basis of it. But beyond that, it's just people speculating. So I think that's why it hasn't gotten more serious coverage. And I hope that speculation is all that it turns out to be, because you're right. It's fucking scary, the idea of Trump declaring martial law. Well, that is all for the patron and member questions. Thanks to all my wonderful patrons and members for your support and for the questions. I'm going to turn my full attention to the live chat in just a moment. But first, it's that special time of the week, everybody. It's time for a brand new Stuffy and Friends short. Now, this will go live as a standalone YouTube short on this channel tomorrow, but because you are watching this live stream right now, you get to see it before anybody. So please enjoy a brand new Stuffy and Friends short. So what are you saying? You think I'm racist?
Of course not. I didn't say that.
You said my taste in music is too white.
I didn't say too white. I just observed, as a friend, that you might harbor some implicit bias because most of your favorite artists are white people.
That's not even true, though.
Who's the last artist you played in your music app?
Bruce Hornsby.
Okay.
But that shouldn't count. That's not white music. Bruce Hornsby's stuff has a lot of jazz influence.
White jazz.
So what? Why do you even care? You're white too, aren't you?
I am a stuffed dog.
Aha! The Bruce Hornsby song I was listening to was The Way It Is, which is a social issue song opposing racism. There's nothing less white than that.
You've got me there.
That's just the way it is. Some things will never change. So there you go. All right, let's see. I do seriously like Bruce Hornsby. You know what song I like better than than Some Things Will Never Change, or That's Just the Way It Is? Mandolin Rain. Now that's a song. And that's like a white person song. Mandolin Rain is like, oh God, I'm so white. I love this song. I'm so white. But I can't help it. I don't care. I'm not ashamed. I love Mandolin Rain and I love Bruce Hornsby. Anyway, William Tucker, you know what that's my very poor impression of Gene Stapleton as Edith Bunker. Because I wrote in the script for that. I didn't write any particular sort of vocal performance into the script. I just wrote that I would sing that line from the Bruce Hornsby song as I walked out at the end of the skit. And I was doing it, and I thought it's a little flat if I'm just going, that's just the way it is. Some things will never change. Like, that just doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't pop. There's no pop. There's no zing to that. So I said, I know. Why don't I sing it like Archie Bunker and Edith from All in the Family? So that's what I did. So the first part is me trying to do Archie and failing. And the second part is I'm walking away with that screeching falsetto is me trying to sing like Edith and failing at that too. So that's what that's all about. Some Random Geek says, you are a fan of Top Secret. Have you seen Real Genius? Yes, I have. And I agree. It's a really good movie. And it's a really good Val Kilmer movie. Kirog with a super chat. Also, the 37s has Sharon Lawrence in it. Can you think of what series I am thinking of now? She's an amazing actress. Oh, obviously, Sharon Lawrence from NYPD Blue. And I took note of that at the time. I remember when that episode originally aired, and they were like, guest star Sharon Lawrence from NYPD Blue. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll watch this. Couple of super chats from earlier, by the way. Here's one from Dumpster Cheese. Thank you very much. Says, enjoying the empathy, sympathy, and honesty. Also, Elon is a Doge bag. Can't argue with that. And Damian Williams, thank you very much for the super chat. Says, diversity of accents as long as it's not French. Apparently. Yeah, apparently. French people have English accents in Star Trek. Every other group gets to apparently keep their accent, but French people, you're all going to sound like English people. Philip Kehoe says, regarding parallel episodes in different Star Trek shows, one of my favorite disco episodes is People of Earth from season 3, because it's a typical Trek plot where our guys serve as mediators. And that's a good one. Yeah, yeah. And it turns out that like the villains are not as villainous as they were sort of made out to be, that there's like a little hook, a little twist. CMAX says, I contend Don't Stop Believing may be the most white song ever. That's a contender. That's a contender. And Dana says, I'm a huge ABBA fan. Is there any group more white without being overtly racist than ABBA? Maybe not. Maybe not. That's all. ABBA, the oeuvre of ABBA is also a strong contender. Joe McClory says, my last song was literally White and Nerdy by Weird Al. That's great. Oh, that's great. Oh, Arrow on Fire. That's terrific. Arrow on Fire says, I'm happy to report I've been working throughout the entire live stream. Very chill after midnight work. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Good for you. Oh, Isaiah's got me. Isaiah says, first he says, now do the Tupac changes sample of the way it is. And I fucking love Mandolin Rain, and I'm black. Fight. Well, there you go. Isaiah's got my back. Cast Iron Chaos. 10 minutes before this live started, I got an email from Hawk Podcasts with a link to this live. Hawk is or was one of the most famous TikTok liberals. His main account was just banned. Oh, okay. Cool. It sucks that he was banned. What the fuck? I guess the Trump administration really is embracing TikTok if they're banning liberal TikTokers. Dana, that's a good one too. And the hook brings you back. Yeah. Blues Traveler. Simon Moody says, The Saint just makes me sad because it falls into that bundle of TV to film conversions where they kept the name and character name and nothing else. Just do something new then. Yeah. I mean, I don't think The Saint is like, you know, I never actually saw the TV version. I never saw the original TV show. The movie was, okay. Alyssa Love says, hey, Steve, it's Alyssa from Kansas City. Nice to see you again. Well, glad to see you too, Alyssa. Glad you could make it. Empire Jeff with a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, back to cold outside Ohio weather. Yeah, spring. What spring? Daryl says, okay, Steve, I don't know if you've heard of Matt Monarch, but he's a vegan known as the raw food guru. He got colitis and lost his colon. I think he overdid the fiber. What says you? I mean, yeah, I don't know anything about it, but it sounds like it. Like, just, you don't have to overdo it. If you're worried about your fiber intake, just, have a spoonful of Metamucil once a day. You're probably going to be fine. Like, if you're eating so much fiber that you're blowing out your colon, yeah, I think you probably have overdone it. Oh, Curtis Bauer says, dude, you totally helped reinvigorate my love of Star Trek, and now my dad and I are watching Discovery together. Thanks. Well, that's cool. That's really cool. Sentai Ranger Donnie, rest in peace, Richard Chamberlain. Yes, Richard Chamberlain passed away recently as well. And rest in peace, Richard Chamberlain and Val Kilmer. Absolutely. Richard Chamberlain, the king of the miniseries, lived to a ripe old age. I think he was 90 something. So, yes, a great legend of television for sure. Stephen G. Clenard with a super chat. Do you think Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia will ever be returned to his family in Maryland? Alive, I mean. Voting matters. Yeah, this was the guy who was deported to that prison in El Salvador, despite literally having done nothing wrong. Was not here illegally, quote unquote, had not been accused of or convicted of any crime. He was just rounded up and sent to El Salvador by mistake because the government is run by white supremacists who are just telling ICE to round up anybody who looks vaguely like they might be an undocumented immigrant. Do I think he will ever be returned to his family? God, I hope so. I mean, I honestly can't, who knows? I don't know. I hope so. But the larger point of your question is voting matters. And yes, it does. Yes, it does. Do I think he would have been rounded up and sent to El Salvador if Kamala Harris was president? No, I do not. No, I do not. And a couple of people, Geek and Wes Magyar, are both mentioning Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Yeah, that's a good one too. And that's another one that a lot of people mentioned in the comments to my Tombstone video. A lot of people brought that up as their favorite Val Kilmer movie for sure. And Sentai Ranger Donnie says Top Gun. Yeah, that's a popular one as well. And also people mentioning his small role in. Stephen, I agree. It wasn't a mistake. It was. I mean, it's intent that they say it was, quote unquote, a mistake. No, I agree. It wasn't a mistake. But no, a lot of people mentioned Val Kilmer's small appearance in Top Gun Maverick as well. Which was nice to see. Isaiah Taylor, Jim Lovell is still alive. He's 97. Yeah, that's right. That's right, he is. I think he's going to try to outlive all the other astronauts, even the ones that are like only in their 30s and 40s today. He just wants to be the last living astronaut. Jan says, I want all torture to stop. Of course, the people who are not guilty of any crime, but El Salvador prison is cruel and unusual punishment at a minimum, and it must have. Oh, I agree completely. We shouldn't be sending anybody there. I mean, people who live in El Salvador shouldn't be going to a brutal prison either, but we don't really have direct control over that. But no, our government should not be sending people, whether they are non-citizens, whether they are here in an undocumented capacity or not. We should not be shipping people to a prison in another country. And it shouldn't even be controversial to say that. Like, we shouldn't be doing that. Yeah. Cast Iron Chaos says, reportedly Val Kilmer was an asshole on and off set. Yeah, I mean, I've heard mixed reports about that, you know. I mean, some people said that he was a dick, and he did have a reputation of being difficult to work with. But there are other people who worked with him, both co-stars and people who were like on the crew and stuff, who said he was lovely to work with. So I think it really depended on the situation. I mean, but yes, he did have kind of a reputation of being difficult to work with. But I mean, like, I don't know. I'm just judging him by the work itself. All I really know of him is the movies, is the performances. So that's all I can really judge from. And he hasn't, as far as I know, he's never been accused of doing anything like terrible, you know. Joe McClure says, how long till a citizen gets swept up? It is likely one already has, and it hasn't been found out yet. Well, that would be my answer. It's probably happened already, or if not, it will happen soon because of how reckless and incompetent and indiscriminate this whole process seems to be. Alyssa Love says the absolute best movie Val Kilmer ever made was The Salton Sea. This is just my opinion. Don't at me. Oh boy. What was the one he made where he played John Holmes? What was it called? Like the Starland Murders or something? I can't remember the title of it. That was another one where I thought he was good. I don't know if I'm not sure if I really thought the movie itself was all that great, but he was good. Oh, Daryl, now this is a good one too. 1960, talking about beloved entertainers who have recently died. Lenny Welch, best known for a cover version of Since I Fell for You, and this was the one that I took note of. I wasn't aware of Lenny Welch, but yes, Jerry Butler, one of the great voices of the 60s and 70s. I believe he did the original version of did he do Find Yourself Another Girl? I think he did. He did the most, I don't know if it was the original, but the most well-known version of Find Yourself Another Girl, which is one of my favorites. Damian Williams says, have you watched Boston Legal? William Shatner and James Spader at their best. I've seen a couple of episodes. I never watched it regularly. I've seen a little bit of it. You would think I would have seen more of it because, I mean, Shatner and the Star Trek connection. And also, I mean, I really love James Spader, but like James Spader was also in that show, The Blacklist, and I never watched a second of it. So apparently my James Spader fandom has its limits. Isaiah says, should we crowdfund to have Jim Lovell's body buried on the moon when he dies? Is that what he wants? I feel like we should respect his wishes. I mean, if Jim Lovell dies and they read his will and his will says bury my ass on the moon, yeah, I think we should make it happen. And I think we should make sure that Elon Musk has nothing to do with it. Oh, Jan mentioning the Gretchen Whitmer. I agree. Democrats need to hold the line and be uncompromising. I agree with you completely. And anytime they have an opportunity to do that and they don't, that is a disappointment and they should hear about it. And hopefully Gretchen Whitmer is hearing about it. Carlisle the Cinephile says, what are your thoughts on Prince of Egypt? I mentioned it in the comments of your Val Kilmer video. It's honestly one of the few religious movies I still hold dear. I have never seen it. So thank you very much for your super chat, but I don't have an answer to the question. I've never seen Prince of Egypt, but you're not the only one. Other people have mentioned Val's performance in Prince of Egypt too. So I will take your word that it was good. Sentai Ranger Donnie says, speaking of Bill Shatner and Star Trek, I heard he accused Paramount Plus of censoring the original series. I don't know if I'm familiar with that. I mean, Shatner says all kinds of wacky stuff. Who knows what he could even be talking about? I mean, like, oh, is it because they're not promoting it as much? Was that what the deal was? That like when they do like press releases or like highlight videos or promotional stuff for Star Trek, they're not foregrounding the original series. They're focusing more on like the newer shows. Was that it? Yeah, that sounds like just sour grapes from Shatner. Because I mean, like I've watched classic Trek on Paramount Plus a whole bunch. I've never noticed that they were censoring any of the episodes. I think maybe he's just complaining that it's not being used as prominently in the marketing, I guess. Oh, Michael. Yeah, Michael says, speaking of Dems holding the line, those 4 that not only didn't hold the line, but actually crossed it to vote for the SAVE Act. Yeah, well, I mean, that's why God created primary elections. No, the people need to hold their feet to the fire. The people, if they fail in this, darkest hour, they need to be held accountable to that. They need to hear about it from their constituents, and they need to have to run against somebody in a primary. I think like this is fucking, if you can't vote against Trump now, what the fuck? What are you doing there? Oh, Cast Iron Chaos with a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, rewatching your best Jesus movie video, I'd like to recommend a worse Jesus movie. Assassin 33 AD. I've never seen it, but just based on the title alone and the fact that you are describing it as a worst Jesus movie, I desperately want to watch it. Sentai Ranger Donnie says, Paramount Plus mangled the opening narration. I haven't seen that. They took out the word man from the opening narration. I'll have to watch an episode of Classic Trek and see if that's true. I think I watched a Classic Trek episode on Paramount Plus not that long ago, and I didn't notice that. But it's possible I just wasn't paying attention. Entartite says, it's nearing 2 a.m. here, so bye-bye. Also, Willow was a masterwork. Also, real Dems will fight this coup d'etat. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out until 2 a.m. In your neck of the woods. And I agree on everything about Willow, everything other than the bit about Willow. But I'm glad you like it. Oh, CMAC, I like this. I've been calling Fetterman's office and repeatedly making asks and telling him I look forward to volunteering for his primary opponent. That's the energy we need. You're goddamn right. Now, Sentai Ranger Donnie says, I was watching a little bit of TOS The Man Trap, and guess what? I can still hear where no man has gone before. So apparently it's not. Oh, Boxy, it's a Tubi movie, so I can watch it on Tubi. Perfect. I will check it out. Sentai Ranger Donnie says, however, since TNG was my initial introduction to Star Trek, I hear where no one has gone before first because I heard it before where no man. Yeah. And yeah, Kirk does say he does change it from he says where no man, where no one at the end of Star Trek 6. Yeah. And I mean it's just no one is better. Where no one has gone before is better because it's more inclusive. I mean, yes, you can say, well, when he says man, he's referring to humanity, but it's still gendered language, and we have an alternative for that now. We had an alternative for it back then, too, but it wasn't as commonly used. It's just better to say where no one has gone before. You know, now I don't think they should change it from the original Star Trek. I mean, I think it is what it is. It was what it was. Let it continue to be where no man has gone before. But in the future, it should be where no one has gone before. I don't see why there would even be an argument about that. Oh, Jason's here. Hi, Jason. Opinionville. So Trump has destroyed our economy and set up China to win the trade war. How are you? Pretty good. Well, Dana, you don't plan to support your representative's opponent in the primaries because you're going to support their opponent in the general because your representative is a Republican. Oh, Caitlin's here. Oh, dang, I passed out about half an hour before the stream started and just woke up to roll over. Hope everyone's had good shit. We've had a good time, I think, Caitlin. Glad you could make it. I'll probably be going about another 10 minutes or so, and then I'm gonna call it a night. Joe McClory says, how do you feel about silly fantasy like The Princess Bride? I love The Princess Bride. You know what? Here's the weird thing, right? And maybe this is too fine of a line to draw. I'm way more tolerant of fairy tale than I am of high fantasy. And I know a lot of people kind of regard those as the same thing. Fairy tale is not like my favorite genre either, but I have found that fairy tales are a lot less pretentious and a lot less self-important. And obviously something like The Princess Bride, where it's not even a straight fairy tale, it's a riff on fairy tales. It's a comedy that is, you know, in the form of a fairy tale. Like something like that I think is fine. I love The Princess Bride. And fairy tale theater, you know, the great early 80s premium cable series created by and hosted by Shelley Duvall. I love fairy tale theater. But again, it's not self-important. It's not pretentious. It's funny. It's cute. It's endearing. Dana wants it to be where none have gone before. No, where no one. I like that better. I think rhetorically it's better. To boldly go where none have gone before, or let's make it even more grammatically correct. Let's sap every last bit of humanity and energy and eloquence out of it and say, to go boldly where none have gone before. More dramatically correct, more grammatically correct, perhaps, but hey, I fucked up and I said the right thing. It's grammatically correct, but it's not dramatically correct. I think it's fine to say to boldly go where no one has gone before. I think that's the best way to say it. Carlisle, exactly. Hello, I'm Shelley Duvall. Welcome to Fairy Tale Theater. Stanley Kubrick was a huge dick to me. This week's fairy tale is the story of the making of The Shining, where everybody was happy and nobody was abused on the set. Like I said, a fairy tale. Jason says at this point it should be where no one will ever go. The cry of the embittered old Trekkie. Okay. Dana says, I think you were right to say to go boldly where no one has gone before is more dramatically correct. I like to boldly go. It's fine. Let's not overanalyze it. Let's not rewrite shit that doesn't, like, rewrite the plots, rewrite the characterization. Don't fucking fiddle with the opening narration. And also Dana and everybody else who was talking about the the Star Trek narration, it's all down to the read. Like, just get an actor who can read it, and then you don't need to have it scripted to within an inch of its life. You know what I mean? Like, get an actor who can read it. Cast Iron Chaos. I didn't know this. The set for The Shining was next door to the set for The Muppet Show. I did not know that. I know that they were both produced primarily in England, but I didn't know that they were shooting The Shining next door to The Muppet Show. What a great episode of The Muppet Show that would have made. If, like, Kermit and Miss Piggy, Miss Piggy, Jesus Christ, my favorite Muppet. If Kermit and Miss Piggy had found themselves at the Overlook, wouldn't that have been a great sort of like off-model special episode of The Muppet Show? Bye, Jason. Have fun making dinner for your family. You fucking loser. I'm going to go make food for my family instead of hanging out and watching the rest of Steve's live stream. What a fucking dick. God, why is he like that? Oh. Our special guest this week on The Muppet Show, Jack Nicholson. Yay! You know. Oh, this is a good one from Eli. Adaptation of The Shining, where it's the Muppet Show thing. It's the Muppet thing. Everyone but one character is a Muppet. Who's the sole human actor? Well, I think it's got to be Nicholson, right? Nicholson is the human actor, and everybody else is a Muppet. Yeah, and Carlisle's going the same place. Yeah, with the super chat. Thank you very much, my friend. Which Muppet is which? Oh, that's a good one. Well, Robin, Kermit's nephew, could be Danny. I mean, you'd want Miss Piggy to have a prominent role, so she would have to be Wendy. So Miss Piggy is married to Jack Nicholson in this. Scooter would be the hotel manager that he meets with at the beginning. And of course, Rolf would be the bartender at the Overlook, the ghost bartender. Sam the Eagle could be Mr. Grady, the former caretaker, the ghost of the former caretaker who takes Jack into the who takes Jack into the bathroom to use the N-word. I mean, he does other stuff besides that, but he definitely does that in the bathroom. Yeah. Oh, Philip says Beaker can have Shelley Duvall's part. Oh, no, that's the Boo Earns. That's it. Bunsen and Beaker have to be the creepy girls. That's perfect. But who's the scary naked lady in room 237? Maybe Janice? Oh, Kara says, apparently the Mission Impossible and Star Trek TOS sets were next to one another. That makes sense. I didn't know that either, but that also makes sense. And it's appropriate because after Star Trek, Leonard Nimoy joined the cast of Mission Impossible. So there you go. Cast Iron Chaos said Scatman Crothers could still voice the Muppet portraying him. So it would be like a Muppet version of Scatman Crothers would play Dick Halloran. Oh, CMAC, there you go. The naked lady could be Animal. I like that. Or Uncle Deadly. Uncle Deadly is the scary naked lady. Yeah, okay. You know, we haven't given Kermit a character yet. Would this be one where Kermit was just kind of the host, but then he wouldn't actually play a character in the narrative? I don't know. Anyway, ruminate on that while I do the end of show wrap up, because it's about time to bring this train into the station here. So Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me for this show. I thank you, whether you are patron or member or none of the above, for your attention and your awesome questions and your awesome comments and messages in the chat and just your support in general. If you enjoy this YouTube thing that I do and you would like to help me to continue to do it, a really excellent way to do that is to become a supporter of this channel. And you can do that by becoming a patron, by going to patreon.com/Steve Shives. You can also do that by clicking the join button right here on the YouTube page and becoming a YouTube channel member. Either way, whether you become a patron or a member, one of the benefits that you unlock is the opportunity to ask me pre-submitted questions, which are the ones that I answer at the beginning of every Ask Away live stream. And that's for any level of support as a member or a patron, from $1 a month on up to however much money you feel like giving me. I promise you, I will never tell you that you're giving me too much money. But yeah, that's just one of the things that I try to do to show my appreciation to the folks who go the extra level, the extra mile, and throw in some regular monetary support, because I literally could not do this without my patrons and members. So I thank you all so very much. And once again, if you're not one of those but you're considering it and you can afford it, of course, patreon.com/Steve Shives, or click the join button. Also, don't forget, in addition to the YouTube stuff, Jason was just here in the chat a few minutes ago before he had to go make dinner for his family. I gotta feed my wife and kids. What a fuck, God. Anyway, Jason and I are on a couple of podcasts. Actually, Jason does most of the work and I'm mostly just a co-host, but we are together on the Late Seating podcast, which is a movie review podcast where we review classic films and see whether it holds up to its reputation, whether it's good or bad. And our most recent episode is our review of Dumb and Dumber. And our next review, which won't be up for a couple of weeks yet, because we haven't even recorded it, is going to be our review of Cleopatra, the epic starring Elizabeth Taylor from the early 1960s. And I am derelict in my duty as a late seating host, because I really should have that movie playing and be watching it now, just to make sure that I finish it in time for the show next week, because it's a fucking long movie. But anyway, so that's next week. And also, of course, the Ensign's Log is the other podcast that I'm on, which is the Star Trek themed comedy podcast that I'm on alongside Jason and, of course, our co-star, Amanda Billings. And the three of us play characters who are characters within the Star Trek universe. We're currently living on Deep Space Nine, and sort of the events of Deep Space Nine are kind of happening in the background while we're getting into our own kind of trouble and telling our own stories in the foreground of the show. It's a ton of fun to do. We have a great time doing it. And if you enjoy Star Trek, and especially if you enjoy funny Star Trek and stuff that makes fun of Star Trek, and you haven't been listening, I think you would enjoy the Ensign's Log. Also, don't forget, I see Geek putting in the links in the chat that are all sort of collected at charitylinks.page. It is linked in the chat. It is also linked in the description of this video. Charitylinks.page is a collection of GoFundMe's and PayPal links and other kind of, funding links for some friends of ours who need a helping hand, who are having some trouble making ends meet. And if you have a few extra dollars to spare and you would like to put it toward a good cause to help somebody out, please consider helping out our friends by going to charitylinks.page and making use of some of those resources to share what you have with people who need a little bit extra. As Dana always says at the end of our shows on Wednesday, helping people is good. So if you can do it, please consider doing it. We would really appreciate it. Now, let me go back to the chat real quick and see if there are any final questions that I can answer before we call this thing to... Oh, Kermit plays Stephen King. I like that, Carlisle. Oh, and Michael had the same idea. Oh, and or William Tucker says Kermit is Kubrick. I could get behind any of those. Empire Jeff says Randy Orton is walking out on the wrestling program. Well, I'm going to watch that. I'm DVRing it. I will watch it tomorrow morning. Watching SmackDown on Saturday morning has become part of my ritual. But thanks for the spoiler that Randy Orton's going to be on it. I guess they're probably going to establish who he's wrestling, because he was supposed to wrestle Kevin Owens, but Kevin Owens had to drop out to get surgery, unfortunately. So now they're going to, I assume this will be the segment where they let us know who Randy Orton's going to wrestle. I wonder who it'll be. You think it'll be Miro or Rusev? I think that's what they'll do with Rusev, since he's recently re-signed, or is highly speculated to have re-signed. Damian Williams says, you mean Steve's not married? As Geek says, not anymore. I was married, but I've been divorced for about 5 years now. So, yeah. Joe McClory says, have you decided if you are going to the Delta Quadrant yet? On the show, I'm pretty sure we're not. I think Jason is going to end it with Deep Space Nine. I don't think we're going to be getting ourselves onto Voyager and going to the Delta Quadrant somehow. That does not appear to be in the cards. And by the way, I am completely fine with that. Kara Sparks says, I've been catching up on Ensign's log this past week. It helped me maintain what little sanity I have as a trans woman and import broker in 2025. Oh, boy. Well, I am very glad that we could help you. I am very glad that the show has been of some use to you. And here's something just to end on. Gedrin Y says, tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks. It leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear. Remember that. Just a good bit of Star Wars dialogue. Yep. From a character that you know is going to be dead from the moment he opens his mouth. But that's okay. That's okay. Good advice. Good thoughts, not necessarily advice, but good things to keep in mind. All right, everybody, that is it. Thank you all so much for joining me once again. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. It's always nice to hang out with you, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.